Hey guys, it's Ernesto and welcome back to yet another video. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I'm having a wonderful day. So today what we're going to be doing, I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to be retouching one of these two images that we have in front of us. So basically this is just my full workflow that you guys are going to see. So this was two images from a session that I did about a week or so ago. That video is going to be coming out soon, so stay tuned for it. These two particular images did not make the cut in that session, but I did wanted to still walk through my workflow so that you guys get a sense of, how I retouch images. I'm just gonna pick the bottom one, even though really she doesn't have any neck in this particular image or not. I still like her facial expression in the shot. And by the way, this is Hannah, and you're gonna get to know more about her when that video is released. So that being said, let's just go with this image. So this image was captured. Let me guys just show you the information, basically what it was captured with. So it was captured at ISO 100, shutter speed was 1/5000 of a second, f-stop 2.8, and it was shot on the 70-200 lens. So let's get into it. I don't do much when it comes to Capture One. We are in Capture One here. So the only thing that I generally look for to see if I need to sharpen up the image a little bit. So let's zoom in here. And it looks fairly sharp. I mean, we could sharpen it up a little bit more, just add a little bit of clarity here. And then if we go to this section here, we could also zoom in here on her eyes and just sharpen the image even just a little bit. It doesn't need that much, but it's sharp the way it is. Other thing that I look for is if I needed to reduce the highlights any. So let's just play around with that a little bit and see if we need to reduce the highlights. Highlights don't seem that bad, so I'm just gonna bring it down. And let's see if we need to increase the shadows a little bit. I don't think we need to do anything there with the shadows. I kind of like the shadows the way it is, so I'm gonna leave it like that. So basically the exposure and everything for this image appears to be fairly good. So like I said, that's pretty much all I do with these images in Capture One. So the next step here is that we're gonna go straight into Photoshop. So I'm gonna show you guys that. All right guys, so here we are in Photoshop. So when I'm in Photoshop, I look for big things that I need to fix. That's my primary target initially. So I basically try to highlight any areas in the image that I would need to, that's basically distracting. So that's my goal. So things like this, flyaway hairs like that, the hairs like down here. And then let's zoom in here on her skin. So things like this, I mean, this is not that terrible. This is part of her tattoo, so we will keep that the way it is. Try to get rid of certain things like that. So these are just little minor things that I would clean up on her skin. Her skin is not bad, actually. She has very, very good skin. So there's not a lot of things that I need to clean up here on her skin. But you just go through here and you make a judgment call as to what needs to, be adjusted, and you adjust it accordingly. So I'm just going through here and marking up all the things that I need to fix. So she have these lines here on her forehead, and I'll probably try to get rid of that. And there's some other areas here that you would try to focus on. Not everything you would get rid of, but you try to get rid of as much as you can. You don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on images. I mean, you could if you wanted to, right? But the whole goal here is to make sure that you don't spend hours, okay? So it looks like a lot, but it certainly will not be. Now, that's just my check. So if we just issues to fix, let's just call it that. Okay. Now there's a couple of things that you could do. There's a couple of ways you could do this. So I create a group, initial group here I call cleanup. I learned this from, I cannot pronounce his name, but he's a retouch out there. I'm sure you guys know him. He's a very, very famous retoucher. But basically, this is the order in which he generally retouch images. He first cleans up the images and then do dodge and burn-in, and then obviously color work if you want to do any color work to the images. So that's what I'm going to do here first. So first things first, as when it comes to skin, there's a couple of ways that you could do it. But what I'm going to try to do here is get rid of the flyaway hairs first. So if I go to the spot healing brush, okay, and then if you make the spot healing brush, put it, oops, didn't want to do that. Let's undo that. I want to make the spot healing brush, I want to make it hard. Okay, so we're going to make it all the way like 100% hard. And that's going to allow us to basically get rid of these flyaway hairs with no issues, just like that. Now, typically, if you have it not hard, the brush that is, it's going to look blurred. So you just want to use a very, very hard brush when it comes to trying to get rid of these flyaway hairs. At least that's how it's been working for me. And for the ones that's, you know, really, really tough to get rid of, then there's other techniques that you could apply. You could use the brush tool to basically get rid of the hair that way. But I'm going to go through this here and then I'm going to speed up this video so it's not as boring. But I just wanted to show you guys how I get rid of these flyaway hairs. Now, I don't get rid of all of them because obviously that would look very bad. Or I should say fake, but you want to get rid of the ones that's a little bit distracting. All right, so let me just go through this here, fast forward this video and get rid of the rest of these flyaway hairs, okay? All right, guys, so that's pretty much it. So that's the removal of the flyaway hairs. Now, like I said, you don't want to get rid of all the flyaway hairs because if you do, it's going to look fake. And that's not my goal. My goal is just to basically just get rid of the distractions. Now, I'm just going to label this flyaway hairs so we know what it is. So the next thing we're going to focus on is her skin. So there's a couple of ways you could deal with skin. You could create like a stamp visible layer like I just did here. Okay, zoom in on our skin and you could use the patch tool. And on the patch tool, you could basically just circle that area that's affected and move the selection to an area that is relatively clean, that's closest to that area, and let go, and it will get rid of it. That's one way you could do it. The other way that you could do it here, let me just do a step back here. The other way that you could do it is just using the healing brush tool. So you could just basically take the healing brush tool, the same tool that we were using before for the hair, but instead of making it hard, you want to make it soft. Okay, and you basically just go over the area and it will get rid of it like that. So you basically choose whichever one works for you. I find that sometimes the healing brush tool doesn't work, but let's use it and see how far we could get with it. And if there's a problem, we obviously will switch up and use another tool. You could also use the stamp tool as well if the stamp tool works or does the job better. especially when you come to hard edges. The healing brush tool is not going to be a good solution for that, but you could use the stamp tool and it will work perfectly fine. All right, so that's about it. That's all I want to do here with respect to her skin and getting rid of any blemishes on her skin. So this is the after and this is the before. As you could see here, these were the areas that were impacted by her skin. So those are the areas that I wanted to target. So let me take the black and white off so you guys can see. Let me back up. So show you the after, before. After, before. So the next thing that I want to do here is basically do some dodging and burning on her skin. Okay, so that's what I want to do. So we're going to turn the dodging and burn layer on. So guys, basically what I did here with the dodging and burning, these are just simply curves. So basically I push the curves up, so basically you get more highlights. So this one is for the dodge, and then for the burn, I basically brought the curve down so it could be a little bit darker and just inverted the layers so it could hide it. So if I turn it off, as you can see, the image is brighter. And if I turn the burn one on, as you can see, the image is darker. And for this one, it was just a solid color, made it black. And then once I made it black, put it into color, okay? And then this just made it black and white. Now, I also made these, made them luminosity so it doesn't impact the color. I mean, you can leave it as normal if you wanted to, the blending mode, but I put it on luminosity so it doesn't impact the color. So that's all I do there with my black and white layer. So from that perspective, here's what I do. I basically go into the brush tool, so B for brush. And then I basically put the flow around 1 or 2. I'm gonna put it to 2, and if 2 becomes a little bit too aggressive, then I put it back to 1. All right, guys, so that's it. So basically that's the micro dodging and burning. So for the most part, I generally just use the dodge part to do the micro dodging and burning. And sometimes I would use the burn part, but for the most part, I use the dodging and burn, the dodge layer. So if I do a close up here, you will notice that the changes that I made with the micro dodging and burning. If I turn the black and white layer off, you will notice here the impact as well. So that's why I like putting on the black and white so I could see and not get distracted by the colors. So now if we put this back into black and white, now what we're gonna go through here is basically doing some burning, and we're gonna increase the flow to about 4. Okay, so now this is where the heavy dodging and burning comes into play. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it. That's all I would do there for the dodging and burning to basically, give the subject's face a little bit more definition. Okay, so like I said, the next thing here is we do the color work. So I start out with curves, then I put levels, then I put the channel mixer. There it is. Okay, so those are the things that I add in there. For the curves, I put this on luminosity. And then what I try to do here is I try to push up. So I try to bring it as close as possible to the shadow, to the highlight area right there. So I could just basically give the subject a little bit more punch, or the image more punch. And then for the shadows, just try to bring this down just a little bit here so it adds a little bit more contrast. Now, if this is a little bit heavy-handed, what I do is reduce the opacity. And in most cases, it always is heavy-handed. Okay, so you reduce the opacity there, and it gives the image just a little bit more punch. And you just you play with it until you're happy with it. Okay, so I like that. It gives the image there a little bit more punch. Now, if we come to the levels area, so for the levels, this one you could actually put in color, or you could leave it as normal. Now, I leave it in normal to begin with, and then I put it into color to see what effect I get. So now if I take this and I go to the blue section, and I push my blues, well, push the highlights, right? So you want to put some warmth into the subject's skin, right? And then you want to put some blues into the shadow area of the image. Okay, so now this is on normal, like I said, but if I switch it from normal to color, okay, now this is just impacting the color. Now I go back to normal, and I think I like it more on the color because all it's doing is impacting the color. So the next thing I do here is in a channel mixer, I go to the black and white, the presets, and then I choose one of the black and white presets. Now, what I'm looking for is a little bit of contrast, okay? So I go through these presets, and I look for contrast. So let me just go through this here again, because I think I didn't see one that I liked. Okay. I kind of like this. This gives enough contrast for the image. Now, if I reduce the opacity on this, okay, so what this is doing basically is desaturating the image, okay? So if I take that off and put it back on, you'll notice that the image is desaturated, okay? So that's what I kind of like to do. And as far as the color work is concerned, I mean, you could still try to do like, I have like some solid color swatches that I, when I surf the internet, I come across some things that I like, and I basically take their color that I see. So there's these warm color that I came across in some image somewhere, I don't remember where. But if I switch this to soft light, right, now it makes the subject skin very yellow or warm. But you could basically do the same trick, right? Which is basically isolate just the highlights on the subject's skin, right? As opposed to the entire image. All right. Sometimes that works out better and you reduce the opacity. Okay. And then just do it before and after to check it to see if it looks good or not. Okay. Let's take this blend if off and just see if it impacts the entire image, how that looks. So it just adds a little bit more warmth to the image. Yeah, that looks kind of cool like that. By the way, if you guys want to steal this swatch, let me just do another solid one because I'm sure that would be the next question, like, what is that? So if you wanted to steal it, actually not selective color, I want to do solid color. So that swatch If you wanted to steal it or use it, that's the value for that swatch. Okay, so cancel out of that, so you have it. So before and after, and we could basically go back here and let me adjust this here. Let me put this 80, 20. Okay, so if I group this and I do a before, after, before, after. So you're just trying to, what I'm trying to find in here is a happy medium that I'm happy with, right? So sometimes this just requires a little bit of play. And this is basically the longest part in my retouching process, because I can never really find, sometimes I can't find that color that I'm looking for. And this is where the experiment comes into play. But this is basically where I start out. So I add another levels here at the top. And what I do here is I bring this, I put this to luminosity, hold down on the Alt key. And what I'm looking for here is just to add just a little bit more contrast to the area to the image. And I'm pushing this as much as I can until I see some highlights there. And then I'm pushing this here until I see some shadows pop in. And that's going to add just a little bit more contrast to this image. So again, if I do like a quick before and after on this image, again, I'm just looking to see if what I did, I'm happy with. Because you could definitely go wrong and add color to the image that you definitely don't like, right? So yeah, this is, for me, man, is like the toughest thing for me. So for this, you just have to play around. But I think for this video, I'm gonna probably stop it here, because at this point in time, this could take me literally from 30 minutes to 40 minutes of playing around until I find a color that I like. But I think for the purpose of this video, I think I'm gonna just leave it here, because I think as far as this workflow is concerned, this is pretty much what I do. The next thing that I do as far as exporting this image, that's probably something else that you guys will probably want to know. So all I just did there was created a stamp visible layer. And what I do with that, I basically then put this into a desaturated. So you hit Command Shift U to desaturate it. And then what I do here is I go up to filter, and then I go to other, and then I go to high pass. And then I sharpen it utilizing high pass, and I generally just leave it at 1.9, hit OK, then hit overlay. And then what I do here is I reduce this to about 20%, the opacity that is, okay? And once I reduce the opacity to 20%, basically this is the image that I would export to YouTube, to the internet. So that's generally what I do with my images as far as retouching them and doing the color work. There's not much more to it than that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Put some comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you have any more questions, if I missed something that you guys have a question about, put it down in the comments below. Share this video with your friends and family. And guys, if you got this far in this video and you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.